All right, good afternoon. Welcome back here to Trader Minute. Great to have you aboard. Sorry for hopping on just a little bit late here. There's too many options here. This is a market here today full of reversals and gravestones. Uh, those of you who know me, you know that I like gravestone candles. Just things like Las Vegas Sands, which has kind of run away. I was pricing this when Vegas Sands was up 10 cents. It's dropped 80 cents since. It's still in a good spot from a short standpoint. Really like the downside action on Vegas Sands. A little bit more than Win and MGM, but overall, it's there. Perhaps one of the best chart setups out there here is Ryland with some of the gravestone action on it, some of the heavy selling on the down, getting a pop back up with a nice little gravestone candle here, marking a top. Um, Options just aren't really good enough for me to do it for the challenge. We're dealing with about a 10 cent or 5% spread, which just not good enough there for the trade. We're also looking here at Lennar, okay, and the gravestone action here on Lennar. There's some housing data coming out here this week. Using 35 as a stop as Lennar's retraced back after the heavy selling is set up very, very well. And so I'm looking at going after Lennar here and going after some of the puts. Now, as I do that here, MRO. Keeping MRO on board. Okay, MRO's had a little volume. It's held up pretty well here today. Has outperformed the market dramatically, but it's been a little volatile. Today's really a pick'em. And it's a pick 'em of short exposure, but you have to keep in mind a couple things. Number one, volumes are very, very light. We're dealing with day after market expiration or options expiration. A lot of times, the day after market expiration tells you where the market wants to go, because it tells you where the fund managers have protection. And if they're selling stocks, it means they're lower on protection now, and you tend to get some follow through to that. But the theme of 2013 has been very little follow through to the downside. So just kind of keep that in mind. So I only have what $1,100 here for the challenge, 1140 to pile into this next trade, and I'm going to go with the December 35 puts on Lennar. Okay, and I'm looking at six contracts. Okay, six contracts. And let's see if we can go and fill these here. I'm a little concerned about just the entry point right here. Admittedly, a little bit concerned about it from a short-term standpoint. Okay. And I'm just going to go fill these market. I think I might be paying 10 cents too much. When I say concerned, I think I might be paying 10 cents too much. All in all, though, if the trade goes against me, it'll be down about 50 cents. So I'm looking at about a 28%, 27, 28% risk here. Okay. So let me fill these here. There we go. And I just filled them at market. So we bought six LEN December 35 puts on Lennar for 171. Was that my fill price here? Let me double check. Yeah, 171. I'm probably paying about 10 cents too much. Probably paying about 10 cents too much. The reason, though, I'd be willing to pay 10 cents too much here is simply because it will I don't know if I'll be able to get it there quick enough as things move. Okay, give me 1 second here to make sure the alert has gone out here. Okay, price target here on Lennar that we're looking for 32, if not 31. Okay. So I'm in at 171. You'll see they're trading 168 to 170 right here. They're kind of just like I said, I may be paying about 10 cents too much for them, meaning we see Lennar move up a little bit in the morning. Overall, I have a delta here of about 50 cents, meaning the trade goes against me by $1. I'm looking at about 50 cent loss here. This thing starts to trade above 35. I want out. I'm using today's candle. We have the big hammer candle from earlier in November before the drop. We now have some gravestone action. I've talked about how I would love to sell into these home builders on a retracement. We're getting that. I do need some sort of gap down here and follow through. So I'm not willing to get into a more aggressive option with this. I am in, you could call the option that I'm in relatively conservative, okay, for Lennar. Okay. Did I pay a little extra for it? Yeah, probably. I probably paid about 10 cents too much for it. But 171 is my fill price. Six puts here on Lennar. Okay. Now, from a housing standpoint, my favorite chart is Ryland. My favorite chart by far is Ryland. But Lennar has the options, and they generally trade together. You have very similar principles within the charts. Okay. Went out and obviously Carl talked about AMAT on his top three. Just from the option standpoint, a little bit difficult to get as good of risk reward from AMAT. Still a solid setup there. Um, you have other stocks out there, right? I mean, there's Tesla, which I've made no bones about saying I'd love to be short this. It's just hard to do without having strong gains on the challenge yet. This is one where even if I had, we were up to 6,000, I'd take and go do a contract or two and ride that. Kind of the same way with Facebook. With its drop here, as I expect Facebook to break 45. The Apple action here today, to me, is a little bit surprising. At the same time, if we were to see Apple come down towards 510 and start to bounce higher, it would really give an ideal entry. Okay. As far as MRO, okay, as far as MRO, the setup on MRO is still great. We're dealing with the X dividend here today. It's outperformed the market. It's outperformed oil. It's held up extremely well in the face of everything. It had that brief rally and drop earlier this morning, but overall it's held up extremely well. Much better than many of the others. The risk reward on the options is a fantastic setup here on MRO. The risk reward there is really good. Okay. Yeah, I just looking at an email here. If I think the options are overvalued by 10 cents, why am I getting in on Lennar? Look, the options are simply overvalued in my opinion, simply because the stock, has 10 to 15 cents rally into it. Okay, and I can't wait till the absolute close to get in and get that 10 cents, right? I got to get the trade out. There's other people who are looking to get in, and so I can't wait for the 10-cent rebound in the stock price that we have now gotten, where the option price has come down. It's kind of too late for me to get in. So we've had about the 10-cent pullback now here in the option price. That's about where I really like this. 162. At the same time, I'm looking for this option to be worth well over $3 by the time we cash it out. I'm looking for Lennar to come down into the 33 and a half in the short term, the longer term down here to 32 and a half. Okay, down to 32 and a half. Okay. Yeah, I mean Lennar because it's green today, right? Because it's green. One of the things that we'll see with stocks that are in the green near the end of the day, they'll get a little bit of a bounce. Okay, they'll get a little bit of a bounce. PW, is it a usual thing to have a call and a put going at the same time in the same challenge? It's not uncommon. The last challenge we really couldn't because we were kind of going one trade at a time as we had a little bit of a drawdown, and so I wasn't really in a position to be able to do that. If you kind of go back look at last November, it was very common to have that action. I'm more of a fan of doing call and puts at the same time, uh, from the during the end of the year and into the beginning of the year, just because you could see charts go different directions. Generally, and this year wasn't the same, but generally in the summer months, you kind of get everything going one way or another. Okay. Yes, on Lennar, I would be out on a close above 35. Okay, we go above 35. I get really nervous with Lennar. Okay, absolutely. Okay, absolutely. Would be very nervous on a close above 35. Now I say a close simply because 35.50 is really the what I would consider to be the hard stop. If you're looking to put a hard stop in there, but over 35, would be worrisome. Okay. Ideal scenario for Lennar is to have it close about where it is right now. A little bit of tail on the hourly, fill that tail in the morning, and kind of have some weakness, rotate from the Nasdaq into housing, which is one of the things that we've just kind of seen in the market. We've just seen these rotations here. Okay. Look, this is a pick 'em. Okay, this is a pick 'em. There are a lot of setups out there to the downside. A lot of downside setups, a lot of bearish type of candles out there. It really is a pick 'em. From SLB, I mean, we're talking about Halliburton, which has been one of the top performers out there, having perhaps its worst sell-off here on a one-day basis since the summer, and really getting hammered here. When you take a look at something like Tesoro, you're not seeing a big pullback, a big drop. But when you start getting into some of these, even something like Starbucks, some of these stocks that have had a little extra valuation priced into them, they're the ones getting the big haircut. But clearly, one of the underperformers here today is the Russell 2000, and it's really gone from underperforming to outperforming to underperforming. It's had different shifts throughout the day. Okay, now is it overly bearish? Well, it's still going to close above the 7. All right, IWM still probably going to close above the 7. If we look at things like the emerging markets, still ending with over 1% worth of gains. You look at something like the Chinese market, still up 3.5% here today. We're not seeing risk come off in every spot. So this isn't like we're seeing this mass sell-off in the market uh, in all areas. This is really kind of very much a tech-led sell-off here today, with small caps underperforming. Okay, yeah, VIX been kind of all over the place here today, right? I mean, VIX moving up over 13, could move up into the 14 and a half, 15 area. Yeah, on a normal pullback there, absolutely. Okay. So we have some Lennar and some MRO. Okay. Yeah, IBB. When you're talking about the biotech iShares, we've seen just some strong sell-offs come into this whole group. and but everyone has been met with buying. They've all been met with buying. You're seeing a bearish engulfing type action here today as they hit new highs and reverse off of it. That's ugly action. One of you sent me an email today, said that the market's had about 36 to 37 new highs here this year. Is that a bullish thing? Well, the last time we had so many new highs in one year was 2007, and we topped out in October. So, we've seen years with new highs come in and mark tops. We've also seen years with new highs come in and not. So I don't really think the new highs has anything to do with it there. Yeah, Apple ripping lower here. It just started near the end. In fact, Apple, come on, we had talked about it. We saw it bounce up to 525, and that was one I was eyeing for a potential entry on the upside into the close. That reverses, pushes lower, breaks 520. At this point, I'd like to have a bullish bias on Apple, as I think it's really pulling back as a result of tech. But I'd love to see it come back down here to about the 515, 512 area, then start to reverse higher. I'd feel more comfortable in getting into Apple on the upside that way. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing here on MRO that is bearish. There's nothing here on MRO that is bearish with today's action. You could say, well, it's off today's highs, but then at the same time, you could say, well, it's outperformed oil and it's outperformed the market. You can go back and forth with a variety of technical arguments. One of the things that I mentioned this afternoon is with MRO, we have this breakout, right? On the hourly chart, we have this breakout above 36.25, and a lot of times breakouts aren't going to be completely smooth. And sometimes they'll come back and retest breakout levels. So really, that's what MRO has been doing here. Okay. What's the correlation between MRO and Brent and crude? Let me show you here. I'll just come down here to my indicators. Let's put the correlation between MRO and, let's say, USO. If we're going to go with West Texas crude, and let's come here to correlation, and we'll say to BNO, which is Brent, right? And then let's just say the correlation between the XLE and MRO. Okay, so let's look at all these correlations here. The correlation between MRO and USO has actually been negative, meaning as oil goes down, MRO's gone up. Okay, and that's what we've seen recently. Okay, that's same with Brent. There's no real major correlation here at all. Okay, at all. The MRO and the XLE, yes, they used to be extremely positively correlated up here at 1. A lot of that correlation's been coming out as the MRO's been outperforming the rest there. Okay. Okay. Yeah, eBay. Yeah, eBay here. eBay here pulling back. eBay just continues to sit in this consolidation and doesn't really want to break up, doesn't really want to break down. I don't think there's any real significance that it breaks the 7-day moving average here today. You're looking at a 51, kind of 50 and a half to 51 and a half support area here with eBay. If eBay got down here to 51, would it be an absolute buy? No, because you're kind of hitting it with some lower lows. But overall, it's consolidating, so you have to pick out: do you want to play the support and resistance, or do you just want to wait and play this with one of the breakouts that could happen there? AIR. Here again, still breaking the 7. The risk is high. The uptrend remains strong. You have some really good support here at 29. But if the market decides to fall, you're going to see stocks like AIR break their small support levels and shoot down pretty quickly. But we still haven't seen that complete market breakdown there. TIF, more of a product of the market here today. Low volume reversal. Doesn't mean low volume reversal. It can't pull back even more. but TIFF is very emblematic of some of the bearish candles we're seeing in the market. In the case of TIFF, we're talking about a dark cloud, but we see gravestone dojis, bearish engulfings. We see them, all over the place. Even something like Allstate, which just hasn't sold off on much volume at all, just back down to the 7. But we're talking about a bearish engulfing where if the market decides to drop, something like this is going to drop aggressively. If I were playing the upside on Allstate, I would continue to hold it here and use kind of 54 as that stop. Triple D had been trading up most of the day. This type of spinner after such a big run. I mean, Triple D hit 85 today. You were talking about a stock that's pretty long in the tooth as far as, it has moved. And coming back from 85 back down to 80 with this type of spinning doji, that's a tough one to want to be holding on the upside. SR with MRO as far as getting in now, waiting till tomorrow, I don't think it's going to matter too much. I really don't. I don't think we're going to see a big gap in MRO in either direction. Okay. Yeah, WMB, Williams Company. This to me here, you're talking about, yes, it's trading above the 7, but you're talking about a stock that slid pretty hard. If you're playing this bounce, if you're playing this rebound, there's nothing bearish here to go off of. It did get a little volume into the end of last week. 34 and a half is, if you're going long, is your support area there. But it's always tough to get long into the face of such a harsh sell-off here. Yeah, Yelp. I mean, Yelp is it has ugly written all over it. Has we're going lower written all over it. It has it has a lot of downside activity written all over it. Yeah, J&J still looking good. Yeah, I mean J&J still looking good, still holding up, holding the 7. I'd like to get into J&J to the upside. Can't quite yet, but overall still looking strong. Aetna here, okay. In the J&J, the Aetna, the Allstate, nothing has changed today with them. Like there's nothing different with these stocks as far as their directional move. Today's move, what is it? Well, they pulled back as the market put a little pressure on them. They've done so on low volume with no news on them. They're not the issue. Can they continue to go lower if the market does? Absolutely. But overall, we're not talking about bearish signals coming into those. Yeah, Max, Home Depot report tomorrow. Yeah, and it will be a market mover. Home Depot tends to be a market mover. We have Lowe's here as well. I believe Home Depot's tomorrow morning and Lowe's tomorrow afternoon. No, Home Depot's tomorrow morning. Lowe's is on Wednesday morning. Could it be a market mover? Yeah. I mean, it absolutely could. The market doesn't have much to pin off of. Uh, to hinge off of. And so absolutely could be a market mover there. Yeah, waste management on a day like today, there's nothing here that shifts the movement in waste management. I mean, it continues to ride the upper band, continues to be strong. You're riding the calls, you keep riding them. You look at the rest of the market and you say, who cares? It keeps being strong. Okay. Why did the IWM have such a sell-off today? Um, the whys are debatable. There's a lot of arguments as far as the whys. Most market tops, and if we've been building a top, they're not going to happen with whys. No, there's not going to be major whys. We saw some short-term technical breakdowns come in about an hour and a half ago, and as those started to break down, it seemed like a very technical process where you start to see a little rollover from a technical standpoint. I've heard speculation that today's market moving lower here is because of Bitcoin uh, in the Senate. I mean, there's all types of wild speculation out there. Okay. All right. Yeah, Capital One. Nice breakdown here today. And I have to admit, I priced this one out with Lennar uh, as far as for a short. Love the action here. Love the downside action. It's underperformed. It had its tube A pop. If you've been riding those, you know, Capital One just has all signs that it's ready to break down. Okay. Yeah, if HD is up, will it impact Lennar? Yeah, there'll be an impact. Yep, there'll be an impact. Uh, Not necessarily, hey, Home Depot's up, but Lennar has to go up, or Home Depot's down, Lennar has to go down. It'll really depend on some of the details of Home Depot and of their of what happens with Home Depot. Perhaps one of the biggest numbers for the home builders in general will be Wednesday, the existing home sales data. Okay, that'll that'll be that'll be there. Okay. Look, when the market starts to drop and there's no catalyst, they tend to run and they tend to continue to go lower. There's just not a lot of catalyst out there. And so, can there be follow through? Absolutely. Why my hesitation to follow through? Because 2013 hasn't had much follow through. In the past, a day like today would be just loading up on the puts and real excited about the puts. Now it's like, okay, you know what? I got the setup. I got the setup. I can't argue with the setup. The setup's there. Are we going to see follow through? Running with that. Yeah, Jim. Lennar puts are around $1.66 up to 170. Yeah, I got in at 171 when I entered. Said I was probably paying about 10 cents too much. So they've come back a little bit here. They've pushed just a little bit lower, but nothing major there. Okay. Yeah, a lot of fear in the market today. I mean, look, whenever the big multiple companies start to fall, it creates some fear because these are your Facebooks, your Teslas, your Netflixes. These are your real aggressive traders, your real your high alpha traders here. And when they underperform, it tends to increase some of the fears that are out there. I mean, overall, it's not yeah, not a look, if you're in Boeing and it's up 230, yeah, it's off its highs, and you're still seeing the Dow Jones Industrial Average trade in the green. You're still seeing transportation stocks here just only down marginally. You're not seeing the real fear. Yeah, for 2013, is this a fear and panic day? Yeah, but you compare it relative to any year prior. No, there's no fear. There's no panic in this market. Okay. Yeah, could it be some of the round number issue? Yeah, it could. Yeah, AAMRQ, it continues to fly, right? I mean, just continues to fly here as we're dealing with the government and some of the mergers with some of the airlines there. It's a fundamental story, but continues to be extremely bullish. I wouldn't be trying to call a top here on AAMRQ. Tom, you're correct. Lennar was not a trend rider or a vibe setup. You are correct. One of the things with the challenge is we're not locked into only vibe or trend rider setups. Okay. That's not the whole market. And so the nice thing about the challenge is we can trade outside of those as long as our risk reward is set up well here. Okay. Yeah, ugly action on Cena today, right? We talked about some of these China stocks this morning, and they were up nicely, but really tough to buy given how far away they were from the seven. Now today, creating some pretty heavy, hammer candles, gravestones, just bear candles all over the map here. Okay. Yeah, give me fear, give me panic, give me a few good puts. Yeah, give me a market where a 20-day move is normal. Yeah, we're probably not going to get that anytime soon. But as we head into January, February, I have hopes that we start to see that 20, 25 point days are there. Okay. Yeah, Smitty, Icon comments. Yeah, I mean, Icon's he's always yapping out there. For some reason, he's well, we know why, but he's heavily, people pay attention to him and whatnot, and he's talked about being cautious on stocks. Okay, but be careful. Be careful. These guys talk like this a lot, and they're wrong a lot too. Just because Icon's saying, "Hey, we're probably near a top," one of these guys, I forget who it was. Was it Soros or Icon? Basically, had their largest portfolio, or their portfolio, the largest position was S&P 500 puts. And they even talked about them as a directional trade. Ended up getting squeezed out of most of them. Okay. Okay, nice, Jim. Nice, Jim. SPM, with Netflix and Tesla, who cares? There's a next one. Don't kick yourself for missing. Always another trade. Okay. Yeah, Martin, you won't call this fear until the VIX is above 16. Yeah, even then, it's not really a lot of fear there, right? I mean, this is this is you know there's not much fear in today's market. It feels it because of the way that it's happened, but overall not a whole lot of fear here. Okay. One of the things, market just closed. Let me show you something here. We come here. I'm just on the S&P futures. Um, Notice some of the volume right at the end. The volume kick up is normal, but a lot of times this last minute, that's a lot of algorithmic trading. There is a little bit of correlation. There is a little bit of correlation, to the next day's market and this last candle. Nothing that I would say, oh, okay, I'm going to go trade off of. Yeah, SPM only because it's so obvious, just too afraid of a rally. Yeah, when you watch a market, and this was the thing this was one of the things of 2010 or 2007. Okay, a lot of basically the shorts were done, or the shorts were done at the top of 2007. Why? Because, well, we watched it pull back in August, and then the market had every reason to have triggered a top, and then it went and set a brand new high. And at that point, one of the things that happened is everyone saying, you know what, who cares? Subprime, we had the scare. Market already priced it in. Market's now setting a new high in the face of subprime. It means subprime isn't that bad because markets always know best. Market set new highs. Earnings were good. Economic data was good. October 2007. Then the market just starts going down. No real reason. No real news. You got your economists coming on CNBC every day saying, "Hey, you know what? Earnings are good, multiples are good. Yeah, there's a little overvaluation, but in all, things look great. Subprime is behind us." Well, it didn't take very long for all that to come in. Calling an initial top where the market's running away, okay, is difficult. But what happens here? What happens here in terms of the market is generally a top is a process. It's a process. Yes, this year we've had times where some of that process has been started and we should have seen more normalized corrections, but we haven't. But in general, the process, you could argue that it's starting, but the Bulls still have a lot of this. And they still have a lot of this. And to say there's an absolute top process in, and we just go straight down from here, that's pretty tough. Pretty tough. Okay. All right. Well, thanks for hopping on. Any questions, please, feel free to let me know. Jeff at TraderMinute.com. Happy to help you out there. And I'll see you back here tomorrow. Have a great night.